Have you ever felt like your own mind was working against you? Like it's got a mind of its own and it's not always on your team? Well, today we're going to pull back the curtain on a really powerful psychological tool that's designed to help you, become the master of your own thoughts. So let's dive into what's known as cognitive behavioral therapy, or for short, CBT.
It all kind of starts with this ancient parable. You've probably heard it. There's a group of blind men and they come across an elephant for the very first time. One man touches the tusk and says, "Aha, it's a spear." Another one feels the huge flat side and is convinced, "Nope, it's a wall." And a third guy, he grabs the tail and insists, "You're both wrong. It's a rope." Now here's the thing. Each one is right, but only about their tiny part. None of them are seeing the whole elephant.
And that story, it's a perfect metaphor for our own minds, isn't it? So often we experience the world through our own little limited perspective, and we're absolutely convinced that our interpretation is the only truth. But what if we're just holding on to the tail? What if there's a whole lot more to the story?
Okay, so this brings us to the absolute foundation of CBT. It's built on a pretty simple but really profound idea. Your thoughts, your feelings, and your behaviors, they aren't separate things. They're all connected in a loop. What you think directly affects how you feel then drives what you do, and then what you do circles right back and reinforces your thoughts and feelings. It's a cycle, and that cycle can either lift you up or it can pull you way, way down.
So what is CBT really? Think of it like a practical toolkit for your mind. This isn't just about thinking positive or repeating affirmations, not at all. It's about learning the actual skills to see that entire elephant. It teaches you to spot the connections between your thoughts, your emotions, and your actions, and then it gives you the tools to consciously change those patterns for the better.
All right, so let's get into how this actually works. Our minds are incredibly powerful, right? But sometimes they can play some serious tricks on us. They can turn something totally harmless into a major threat. And this is where a great analogy comes in. The story of the rope and the snake. For a lot of us, this whole process starts way back. Things that happen in our lives, like maybe frequent criticism when we're growing up, or being bullied, or not getting enough affection. These experiences don't just disappear. They lay down the foundation for how we see everything. They basically create the lenses through which we view ourselves and the entire world. And those powerful experiences can harden into these deeply ingrained core beliefs. Things like, "I'm not good enough," or "people will always reject me." And these aren't just fleeting thoughts, They become like the default operating system running in the background of our minds all the time.
So with that in mind, imagine you're walking down a path and you see this. Now, objectively, what is it? It's just a coiled rope on the ground. It's a neutral object in a neutral situation. But our brains don't always stick to objective reality, do they?
If your core belief, that operating system, is telling you that the world is dangerous or that you're always under threat, your mind doesn't take the time to analyze. It just jumps. Instantly, that rope becomes a snake. That neutral situation is suddenly a moment of sheer panic.
And that mental leap, that's what CBT calls a cognitive distortion. It's basically a glitch in our thinking that causes us to see reality incorrectly. It's what turns the harmless rope into the threatening snake. But here's the important part. It's a glitch in your thinking, not a flaw in your character. It's a pattern. And because it's a pattern, it can be recognized and it can be changed.
And these distortions, they come in all sorts of flavors. You've got all or nothing thinking, where if you make one tiny mistake, your whole day is a total disaster. Or how about mind reading, where you're just convinced you know someone is thinking something bad about you. Just starting to recognize which ones are your personal go-tos, that's a huge first step.
Okay, so we're starting to get how our thoughts can get a little twisted. But CBT isn't just about thinking, right? It's also about doing. So now we're going to shift gears, because changing our behavior is one of the most powerful ways to actually change our minds.
This right here, this is such a critical point. Sometimes trying to think your way out of a bad mood is just impossible. It feels like pushing a giant boulder uphill. But what if you start by changing your behavior instead, even in one small way? When you do that, your thoughts and emotions often have no choice but to tag along.
A key technique for this is called behavioral activation. I know, it sounds a little technical, but the idea is beautifully simple. It just means you deliberately schedule and do healthy, positive activities, especially the ones you've been putting off or avoiding. It's all about taking action, not waiting around for motivation to magically show up.
And listen, we're not talking about needing to go climb Mount Everest here. It can be as simple as putting on your shoes and going for a walk around the block, or calling a friend you haven't talked to in a while, or even just putting on your favorite album. These little actions, they're the real building blocks of change.
And check this out. There's real science behind this. It's not just wishful thinking. When we do these kinds of activities, our brain physically responds. It releases more of those mood-boosting chemicals like serotonin and dopamine. So you are literally physically changing your brain chemistry with your actions. How cool is that?
Which brings us to our next section, because this stuff isn't just theory. CBT creates real, measurable, physical changes inside your brain. We are actually talking about rewiring the very organ that creates all of our thoughts and feelings in the first place.
See, every single time you challenge one of those distorted thoughts, or every time you choose to go for that walk instead of staying on the couch, you are strengthening new pathways in your brain. A great way to think about it is like you're creating a new trail in a forest. The very first time, it's tough, but the more you walk it, the clearer and easier that path becomes to follow. And at the same time, that old, negative path starts to get overgrown. Brain scans actually show this happening. So before CBT, you can see the amygdala. That's the brain's little fear center, the alarm system. It's often overactive. It's just firing off all the time. But after practicing CBT, look at the right side. You see the prefrontal cortex. That's the part responsible for good judgment and reason. It takes back control. You become less reactive and much more responsive.
There's a wonderful metaphor for this whole process, and it's called the monkey mind. Our thoughts can feel just like that, right? A frantic monkey just jumping from worry to worry, branch to branch, never sitting still. The goal of CBT isn't to stop the monkey. You can't. The goal is to stop blindly following it wherever it goes. Instead, you learn to step back and calmly observe it. And when you do that, you take away its power. The monkey slowly settles down.
So I guess the final thought to leave you with is this. You don't have to believe every single thing you think. You absolutely have the power to observe your thoughts, to change your actions, and in the end, to actually rewire your brain. So my question for you is, what's one thought, one little monkey, that you can choose to just calmly observe today?